You're standing in your backyard on a Saturday morning, coffee going cold in your hand, and you push your thumb into the corner of a deck board. It gives. Not like wood should give. It gives like a wet sponge, soft and dark, and your thumbnail sinks into the first knuckle before you even meant to press that hard. You pull your hand back, and there's a little smear of black on your skin. That's rot. And once you find one soft board, you start finding them everywhere. The post at the bottom of the stairs, the joist you can see if you crouch down and look underneath, the fence line at the back where the wood meets the dirt. It's all going the same way. So you call a guy. The guy comes out, walks around for 10 minutes, sucks air through his teeth, and writes a number on a slip of paper. $4,000, tear it out, haul it off, rebuild it with new lumber, and seal it. $4,000. And here's the part that really gets you. That deck is only 9 years old. You paid for the good stuff. You did everything they told you, and it's already feeding the ground it stands on. Now, what if I told you there's a box of powder at the hardware store costs you about $20 that the people who restore 200-year-old log cabins have used for decades, and it stops the exact thing that's eating your wood? Stick with me. I'm Hank, and this is Shop Decay, where I dig up the cheap fixes the industry would rather you never heard about. And before I go 1 inch further, I'm going to be straight with you, the whole way down. The title of this video says 50 years, and I'm going to tell you exactly when that's true and exactly when it's not. There's a big, honest catch to this stuff, and I'm not going to hide it from you to keep you watching. I'd rather you trust me than fall for me. So no magic, no miracle, just chemistry that works, used the right way, in the right places. Deal? Good. Let's get into what's actually killing your wood, because once you understand that, the fix makes total sense. Real quick before we go deep, I went and wrote the whole thing down. The exact product names, the mix ratio down to the cup, the order you apply it in, and the top coat step that most people skip. It's in the Forbidden Fitz's vault, links in the description. That's the long version, the one you can print out and take to the shed. I won't bring it up again, I just don't want you scrubbing through this video trying to remember the numbers. It's all sitting there waiting for you. Okay, here's the thing nobody tells you. Wood doesn't just rot. Wood gets eaten. There is no such thing as wood that falls apart on its own in the weather. What's actually happening is that something living moved in and started feeding. Mostly it's fungus. Tiny spores land on damp wood, and if that wood stays wet long enough, those spores wake up and send out little threads that dissolve the wood from the inside and drink it. That soft, dark, spongy feeling under your thumb, that's not the wood being old. That's the wood being digested. And right behind the fungus come the bugs. Termites, of course. But also carpenter ants hollowing out galleries. And these little things called powder post beetles that bore through the grain and leave it looking like somebody went at it with a fine drill. They all want the same thing your fence wants to stay being. They want the sugar and the cellulose locked up in that wood. And here's the part that should make you angry. All that wet that wakes the fungus up, all that softness that invites the bugs in, it almost never starts where you'd expect. It starts at the joints. It starts where two boards meet and trap a little moisture they can't shed. It starts at the cut ends of a board, the end grain, where the wood is basically a bundle of straw standing open to the sky, sucking up water like a paper towel. You can have a deck that looks bone dry on top, and it's quietly soaking and rotting from the ends and the seams where you never look. So when somebody sells you a gallon of fancy surface sealer, understand what it does and what it doesn't do. It coats the face. It does almost nothing for the inside of the wood, and once that surface coat cracks even a hairline, water gets under it, and now the sealer is actually holding the moisture in. You sealed the rot inside. That's how a 9-year-old deck dies while the can in your garage still says it protects for 15. So here's the simple truth. If you want wood to last, You don't need to make it harder, and you don't need to drown it in plastic. You need to make it taste like death to anything that tries to eat it. That's it. That's the whole game. Make the wood poisonous to fungus and bugs, but leave it completely fine for you and me. Protect the inside, not just the face. And it turns out there's a mineral that does exactly that, and it's been sitting on store shelves the whole time. It's called borate. You might also see it written as disodium octaborate tetrahydrate, which is a mouthful, so just remember borate. It comes from the same family as the borax your grandmother used in the laundry. In the wood world, it gets sold as a powder under names like Timbor or as a thicker gel called borate. And you can also mix your own from plain borax and boric acid, both of which you can buy cheap. And here's why it's special. Borate dissolves in water. When you put it on wood, it doesn't just sit on the surface like paint. It rides the water down into the wood cells, deep all the way into the grain. And once it's in there, it is straight up poison to fungus, to termites, to carpenter ants, to those beetles. It wrecks their guts and shuts down their ability to digest. The wood becomes a meal that kills whatever bites it. But for us, once it's dry, it's about as dangerous as table salt. It doesn't off-gas. There's nothing floating up into your air. The folks who restore historic homes have been using this for years inside houses people actually live in, because it does the job without poisoning the family. Log cabin builders swear by it. The pest control trade carries it in the truck. This is not some fringe thing I dug out of a forum. It's professional, it's old, and it's proven. The only people who somehow never heard about it are regular homeowners, because what gets sold to us is paint and stain and a premium for pressure-treated lumber. Nobody at the big box store is going to walk you over to a $15 box of powder and talk you out of the expensive aisle. That's just not how it works. And let me put a finer point on the money, because this is where it really lands. Think about what we actually pay to fight rot. You pay extra for pressure-treated lumber, sometimes a lot extra, and that treatment is great for some uses, but it's not magic either. And on a lot of boards, it only goes so deep. You pay for stain. You pay to restain every couple years when it weathers off. You pay for the sealer, and you pay again when it cracks. And then, when none of that was enough, you pay the $4,000 man to tear the whole thing out. Stack all of that up over the life of a deck or a fence, and you're into real money, year after year, paying for the privilege of watching your wood lose anyway. Now set a $15 box of powder next to that stack. One box treats more wood than most homeowners will touch in a weekend. Pennies a board. It's almost insulting how cheap the actual fix is compared to the whole industry that grew up around not telling you about it. So let me tell you exactly how to use it, because doing it right is the whole difference. First, what to buy. The easiest path is a box of borate wood preservative powder, the Timbor type. 15 to 30 bucks, and one box makes you several gallons of treatment. Pennies per board when you actually do the math against tearing it out. If you'd rather mix your own, you can do borax and boric acid in warm water, and again, that's all written out in the vault with the exact ratio, so I don't have you guessing. Now the mix. You're dissolving the powder in warm water. Warm, not boiling, just warm enough to get it to go into solution clean. You stir it until it's clear and there's nothing settling at the bottom. You want it fully dissolved, because any undissolved grit is borate that's never getting into your wood. That's it. It's a water and powder mix. There's no cooking, no fumes, no special gear beyond what I'll tell you in the safety part. Then you apply it, and this is where bare, raw, thirsty wood is your best friend. Borate goes in through the surface, so the rawer and drier the wood, the deeper it pulls in. If the wood's already got paint or a thick old sealer on it, the borate can't get through that, so you're either treating it before you finish it, or you're scuffing and stripping the spots you really care about first. New construction is the dream, because you can hit every stud and every joist before the walls ever close up. But even on existing wood, you can do a lot of good by getting to the bare and weathered spots, the cut ends, the joints, the underside. Now soak it, you brush it on, or you load it in a cheap pump sprayer and you soak the wood. Don't be shy, you want it wet, glistening wet, and then you come back and hit it a second time once the first coat has soaked in. 2 good coats. And pay special attention to those cut ends and joints we talked about, because that's where the rot wants to start. So that's where you want the most poison waiting for it. The water carries the borate down into the cells. The water eventually dries off and leaves, and the borate stays behind, locked in the grain, waiting. From that day on, anything that tries to eat that wood gets a mouthful of poison. And then you let it dry all the way before you do anything else to it. Give it time. Wet borate hasn't finished its job yet. It's the dried-in borate that does the work. And here is the step almost everybody skips, the one that turns this from a good fix into a 50-year fix. If that wood is going to live outside where rain hits it, you seal over the top of it once it's dry. A coat of paint, a good exterior sealer, a stain, whatever fits the look you want. The borate handles the bugs and the fungus from the inside. The top coat handles the weather from the outside and, just as important, it locks the borate in so the rain can't wash it back out. Borate inside, sealer outside. That combination is the real secret, and it's the part that the people who do this for a living never skip. Quick reminder, and then I'll leave it alone. Every number, every ratio, the exact products, it's all written out in the description. So you're not trying to memorize me. Take it to the shed and follow it line by line. Now, the honest catch. I promised I'd give it to you straight, so here it is. And this is the most important part of the whole video. So don't tune out now. Borate dissolves in water. That's the thing that makes it work, because it lets the borate travel deep into the wood. But that exact same thing is also its weakness. Because if borate can ride water in, it can ride water back out. So on wood that gets rained on constantly, or worse, wood that's sitting down in the dirt with ground contact, the borate can slowly leach out over time. That's why the top coat matters so much. And that's why I'm not going to sit here and promise you a magic forever coating on bare exposed wood out in the weather. If you skip the sealer and leave treated wood naked in the rain for years, the protection fades. That's just the chemistry, and anybody who tells you different is selling you something. So where does this stuff truly shine? It shines on the wood that stays mostly dry or sealed, framing inside your walls, the sill plate where your house sits on the foundation, that critical board that termites love, interior wood of any kind, the bones of a shed, a fence as long as it's the parts above the ground and you seal it, log homes, which is exactly where the pros use it. Anywhere you can keep wood out of constant standing wet, borate is phenomenal and cheap and safe. That's its home turf. And on its home turf, it earns that 50-year claim. And here's the other thing I need you to hear. Borate is prevention. It is not resurrection. If you've got a board that's already gone soft and spongy and dark, borate is not going to bring it back to life. That wood is done. It's been eaten. You cut it out and you replace it, and then you treat the new wood and the wood around it so the rot doesn't march any further. Borate protects healthy wood. It does not heal dead wood. Don't waste your money trying to soak a rotten post back to solid, because it won't happen. Now the safety, because it's simple but it matters. When you're mixing the powder, wear gloves and wear a dust mask. You don't want to be breathing the dry dust or getting the concentrate all over your hands. Once it's dissolved and applied and dry, it's about as benign as it gets. No off-gassing, nothing in your air. But while you're working, gloves and a mask every time. Keep the kids and the dog and the cat off the treated wood until it's fully dry. And the big one, the one I already hammered, do not lean on borate as your only defense for wood that's down in the dirt or wood that lives soaking wet. For ground contact, You use lumber actually rated for it. You flash it. You keep it up off the wet. You do it right. Borate is a powerful tool in the kit. It is not the whole kit. So here's what to do this week. Walk your property. Push your thumb into the wood the way you did at the start of this video. Anywhere it's still firm and solid, but you're worried about it, your fence, your shed, the framing in the garage, the sill plate if you can reach it. That's your target. The firm wood, not the soft wood. Remember, we protect the living, we replace the dead. Get a box of borate powder, mix it warm, soak it on in 2 coats, hit the cut ends and the joints hardest, let it dry all the way, and if it's outside, seal over the top once it's dry. $20 in an afternoon, and you've just bought that wood decades. Start with the most important board you've got, the sill plate or the framing if you can get to it, because that's the wood holding everything else up. Then work outward to the fence and the shed when you've got a free Saturday. You don't have to do it all at once. You just have to start. I'll tell you something my grandfather used to say while he was fixing something that honestly most people would have just thrown out. He'd say, anything worth having is worth keeping. We forgot that somewhere along the line. We got sold the idea that everything's disposable, that you rot it and rip it and rebuild it and pay the man every 9 years. But wood that's protected can outlive the person who put it up. There are barns in this country older than the highways, still standing, still square because somebody back then cared enough to do it right and cheap. That's not nostalgia. That's just good sense that somebody decided wasn't profitable enough to keep telling you about. So let me ask you, what's the oldest piece of wood still standing on your property? An old barn? A fence post your dad set? A beam in a house older than you are? Tell me down in the comments. I read every single one, and I love this stuff. The old wood that's still here always has a story, and it always has a reason it lasted. And next week, I'm getting into something in your own house that's quietly costing you money every single month. A $30 fix that the people who sell you the expensive version really don't want you to find. You're going to want to see that one. I'll catch you then. Take care of your stuff.